Commander Yoonji stood at the window of her ship and watched the biggest fleet humanity had ever gathered. 57 ships floated in space around Velos Prime. Most were not military vessels. They were cargo ships, passenger ships, even some private family boats. All had come to help save the Valari people. Ji's own ship, the New Dawn, had been a grain hauler before this mission. Now it was packed with life support systems and sleeping spaces for aliens. The changes had taken 2 months to complete. Every day they worked, the Valari sun grew a little brighter and more dangerous. "Commander," her first officer called out. "We're getting a message from Earth Command." Ji sighed. She knew what the message would say. "Put it through." Admiral Chen's face appeared on the screen. He looked angry and tired. "Commander Yoon, you are ordered to return to Earth space immediately. You and every other ship in that fool's mission." "I can't do that, sir," Ji replied calmly. "We have people depending on us." "You have orders depending on you," Chen shouted. "The Dominax Empire has made formal complaints. They say humanity is interfering in galactic law. If we don't stop this rescue, they'll put trade sanctions on all human worlds." Ji felt her jaw tighten. The Dominax were huge reptile-like aliens who controlled much of galactic trade. They were rich and powerful, and they didn't care about anyone weaker than them. "Let them," Ji said. "Some things are more important than money." "Don't be stupid, Commander. Think about Earth. Think about human colonies that need supplies and protection." "I am thinking about them, sir. I'm thinking about what kind of people we want to be." The call ended with Chen still shouting. Ji turned back to her crew. They had all heard the conversation. Some looked worried, but none looked like they wanted to leave. "You heard the Admiral," Ji announced to her bridge crew. "Anyone who wants to go back to Earth can take a shuttle. No one will blame you, not a single person moved." "Good," Ji smiled. "Now let's get back to work." Down on the planet, Engineer Namdo was having the biggest challenge of his life. The Valari couldn't breathe the same air as humans for very long. Their bodies needed a different mix of gases. Worse, they got sick when they were away from their home soil for more than a few hours. "It's like they're connected to the planet itself," Du explained to Dr. Sol. "When we take them away from Velos, they start dying slowly." Sol was studying Valari biology in a makeshift lab. What she had learned amazed and worried her. "They're not just empathic," she told Do. "They're connected to each other through some kind of mental link. When one suffers, they all feel it." "That explains why they're all getting weaker," Du said. "The whole species is feeling the pain of leaving their world." They were interrupted by Keeper of the First Grove. The Valari leader had grown thinner in the weeks since the humans arrived. His glowing patches were dim now. "Sky friends," the Keeper said in their minds. "Many of my people are choosing to stay. They say it is better to die at home than live in pain among the stars." Sewell felt her heart break. "We're trying to make the ship safer for you. Give us more time." "Time is what we do not have," the Keeper replied sadly. "The sun burns brighter each day. Already the children cannot play outside during the day hours." Du had an idea. "What if we don't take you away from your world? What if we bring your world with you?" "I don't understand," Sewell said. Du pointed to his scanner readings. "The Valari are connected to their planet through microorganisms in the soil. If we can replicate those organisms and create artificial environments on our ships, maybe we can make them feel at home." It was a crazy idea, but it was the only one they had. Du and his team worked day and night to modify the human ships. They filled cargo holds with Valari soil, installed special air systems, and even tried to copy the light patterns of the Valari sun. While they worked, another problem was growing. Earth's government was getting pressure from all the major alien races. The Celestials said humanity was disrupting natural selection. The Nexus machines calculated that the Valari had insufficient value for resource expenditure. Worst of all, the Dominax Empire was sending warships. Ambassador Cho Yun had spent 3 weeks on the Galactic Council station, trying to get help. Every day she went to meeting after meeting, begging other species to support the rescue mission. "The humans are young and idealistic," she heard one Celestial say to another. "They don't understand how the galaxy works." "Perhaps it's time they learned," replied a Dominax representative, showing his sharp teeth. Cho's heart sank. She had failed. No one would help humanity save the Valari. She was packing to leave when she got a message from an unexpected source. It was from minor species representatives, aliens that had little power in the council but still had voices. The Keth were small, insect-like beings. The Prith looked like walking plants. The Ogli were barely 3 feet tall and covered in soft fur. All of them had been ignored by the major powers for decades. Human ambassador. The Keth representative clicked at her. We have heard of your people's mission. It gives us hope. Hope? Cho asked. The Prith swayed its branches thoughtfully. We too have been judged as non-essential. If the great races can abandon the Valari today, they might abandon any of us tomorrow. The Ogli elder nodded vigorously. Your species shows that someone can care about the small ones. We cannot give much help, but we will give what we can. It wasn't enough to change the council's mind, but it was something. These small species began quietly sending supplies and support to the human fleet. It was a tiny rebellion, but it was growing. Back at Velos Prime, Admiral Lim Su received news that made his blood run cold. A Dominax battle fleet was coming. 12 massive warships armed with weapons that could destroy planets. How long until they arrive? Su asked his scanner officer. 18 hours, sir. Su looked at the evacuation progress reports. They had only managed to get 2 million Valari off the planet. 10 million were still waiting. The modified ships were working better, but they were still too slow. All ships, Su broadcast to the fleet. Emergency evacuation protocols. Take as many as you can carry, even if it means overcrowding. But even as the ships worked frantically to load more refugees, everyone knew the truth. When the Dominax arrived, the evacuation would end. The big alien warships would force the humans to leave, and the Valari would die with their world. Commander G was loading the last group of Valari children onto her ship when the Dominax fleet appeared. The alien ships were massive, dark things that looked like metal crocodiles. Their weapons were already charging. Human vessels, came the voice of the Dominax commander. You will cease this operation and withdraw from this system immediately. Negative, Admiral Su replied from his flagship. This is a humanitarian rescue mission. These people need help. These creatures have been judged non-viable by galactic law. You will not interfere with natural selection. G felt sick. Natural selection? The Celestials had caused the Sun's problems. This wasn't natural selection. It was murder. We won't leave, Su said firmly. The Dominax commander's laugh was cold and harsh. Then you will learn the price of defying the galactic order. The first shot was meant to be a warning. The Dominax called it that later. But warning shots from planet-killer weapons are still deadly. The beam of energy tore through space and hit the transport ship New Hope. G watched in horror as the ship exploded. 200 human volunteers died instantly. 500 Valari refugees, mostly children, were gone in a flash of light. The silence that followed was broken by something G had never heard before. It was the sound of 12 million Valari minds crying out in anguish at once. Every human in the fleet felt it, a wave of grief and pain that brought many to their knees. But mixed with the grief was something else. Anger. Not just from the Valari, but from humans across the galaxy who were watching the news feeds. Earth's colonies were seeing their people murdered for trying to save innocent lives. On Earth, President Kim A stood before the World Council. Her face was hard with determination. The Dominax have fired on human civilians, she announced. They have killed refugees under our protection. This is an act of war. Madam President, one counselor said nervously, we can't fight the Dominax Empire. They're too powerful. Then we'll have to become powerful enough, Kim replied. Send word to all human fleets. We're not backing down. Back at Velos Prime, G stared at the burning wreckage of the New Hope. Around her, the evacuation ships were pulling back, afraid of more Dominax fire. But G didn't retreat. Instead, she moved her ship forward, placing it between the Dominax fleet and the planet below. Commander, what are you doing? Her first officer asked. What humans do, G replied. We stand up to bullies. One by one, other human ships moved to join her. Soon, the entire evacuation fleet was lined up between the heavily armed Dominax vessels and the dying world full of helpless Valari. The Dominax commander was amazed. You cannot be serious. We will destroy you all. Maybe, Admiral Su replied over the radio, but you'll have to murder a lot of civilians to do it, and the whole galaxy is watching. For the first time in centuries, someone was standing up to the Dominax Empire. It should have been suicide. Instead, it was the beginning of a war that would change everything. The news of the New Hope's destruction spread through human space like wildfire. On Earth, President Kim A watched the footage over and over. 200 of her people murdered for trying to save lives. 500 alien children killed for being in the wrong place. Madam President, her military advisor said quietly, the Dominacs are demanding we withdraw all forces from Velos Prime immediately. They say if we don't comply in 24 hours, they'll attack human colonies. Kim stood at the window of her office, looking out at the city below. Normal people going about normal lives, not knowing that their species was about to face its greatest test. General Shin, she said without turning around. It's time. General Shinbo had been waiting for this moment for 20 years. Ever since humanity first met the alien races, he had been preparing for war. While diplomats talked peace and traders made deals, Shin had been studying alien technology, alien tactics, alien weaknesses. Operation Deep Shield is ready, Madam President, Shin reported. All hidden fleet elements are in position. Kim turned to face him. Hidden fleet elements? Shin smiled grimly. For 70 years, the galaxy has seen us as primitive newcomers. We've let them think that. While they ignored us, we've been building, learning, preparing. We now have 3 times as many warships as the Galactic Council believes. The President's eyes widened. You've been building a secret fleet? Not secret, Shin corrected. Hidden in plain sight. Every cargo ship we've built has weapons hardpoints. Every civilian transport can carry fighters. Every mining station can become a fortress. We learned from watching the other races fight each other. Within hours, the human fleet began to show its true strength. Ships that had been listed as merchants suddenly deployed military-grade weapons. Mining vessels revealed themselves to be heavily armed patrol craft. Even passenger liners opened hidden launch bays and released swarms of fighters. Captain Ryu Wan commanded the massive carrier Indomitable, humanity's most powerful warship. She had been hidden in the asteroid fields beyond Pluto for 15 years, training crews and building fighter squadrons. Now she led a fleet of 30 warships toward Velos Prime. All ships, this is Admiral Wan, she broadcast to her fleet. We go to protect the innocent and stand with our people. Today we show the galaxy what humans are really made of. Back at Velos Prime, Commander G watched the Dominax fleet with growing tension. The alien ships had been threatening her evacuation fleet for 6 hours, but hadn't fired again. She knew they were waiting for orders from their home government. Commander, her sensor officer called out. I'm reading new ships coming into the system. Lots of them. G's heart leaped as she saw the human fleet emerging from hyperspace. The Indomitable was huge, twice the size of any Dominax ship. Around it flew dozens of smaller vessels, all bristling with weapons humanity wasn't supposed to have. This is Admiral Wan to all human vessels, came the familiar voice over the radio. Sorry we're late. Let's finish this evacuation. The Dominax commander was shocked. Where did these ships come from? Our intelligence said humans had only basic military capabilities. Your intelligence was wrong, Wan replied coldly. Now you can withdraw from this system or we can show you just how wrong. Dr. Han Bin was working in the medical bay when the first battle began. As the ships above fought with energy beams and missiles, he was discovering something amazing in his lab below. The Valari healer working with him, called Tender of Small Hurts, had been helping treat injured humans from the New Hope attack. But something strange was happening. When the Valari touched human technology while using his healing powers, the machines worked better. Look at this. Han showed his readings to Dr. Saul. When Tender uses his empathic abilities while connected to our medical computers, the diagnostic accuracy increases by 300%. Saul stared at the data. It's like he's giving the machine intuition. He can feel what's wrong with patients in ways our scanners can't detect. Above them, the space battle was going better than anyone expected. The human ships used tactics the Dominax had never seen. Instead of fighting ship to ship like civilized races, they attacked in groups, sharing targeting data and covering each other's weaknesses. Captain Wan watched as 3 human destroyers worked together to take down a Dominax battleship twice their size. The alien vessel was built to fight single opponents in honorable combat. It couldn't handle 3 ships attacking from different angles at once. These humans fight like animals, the Dominax commander complained over open channels. They have no honor. Honor doesn't save lives, one replied, watching another Dominax ship retreat with heavy damage. Results do. But the real breakthrough came when intelligence officer Li Na made a discovery that changed everything. She had been studying captured Dominax communications when she found something that made her blood freeze. Captain Wan, she called urgently. You need to see this. The message was from the Celestial Confederation to the Dominax Empire, dated 3 months before the human fleet arrived at Velos Prime. The Velos star destabilization experiment proceeds as planned. Population reduction should be complete within acceptable timeframes. No intervention will be permitted. One stared at the message. Experiment. They did this on purpose? Yes, ma'am. The Celestials caused the star to become unstable. They wanted to see if they could control stellar evolution. The Volari weren't an accidental victim. They were the test subjects. The news spread through the human fleet like electricity. This wasn't a natural disaster or even an accident. The galaxy's most enlightened species had deliberately murdered 12 million beings just to see if they could. Dr. Saul was in the Volari city when she heard the news. The keeper of the first grove was with her, helping load the last group of children onto evacuation ships. You knew, didn't you? Saul asked quietly. The keeper's large eyes were full of ancient sadness. We suspected. The bright ones spoke of gifts and improvements, but their hearts felt cold when they touched our minds. We are empaths, seeker of knowledge. We feel the truth in other souls. Why didn't you tell us? What would be different? The sun would still die. Our people would still need saving. And now you know the truth. Would you abandon us? Saul looked at the Volari children boarding the human ships. Some were scared, but they trusted the strange aliens who had come to help them. Never, she said firmly. The space battle turned into a rout as more human ships arrived. The Dominax had expected to face a small, poorly armed rescue fleet. Instead, they found themselves fighting a military force that had been preparing for this moment for decades. But it was the Volari who provided the final surprise. As the last evacuation ships prepared to leave the dying world, something unexpected happened. The Volari refugees on the human ships began working with the human crews. Engineer Nam Do was amazed to find that Volari empaths could sense problems in the ship's systems before his instruments detected them. They could feel when engines were stressed, when life support was failing, when weapons were overheating. It's like they can hear the ship's pain, Du reported to the bridge. They're helping us fix problems we didn't even know we had. The combination was incredible. Human technology guided by Volari intuition created capabilities neither species had alone. Human ships began performing beyond their design limits. Weapons fired more accurately. Engines ran more efficiently. Life support systems worked perfectly even when overloaded. The Dominax commander realized he was facing something new. These weren't just humans with better weapons. These were humans and Volari working together in ways that created entirely new possibilities. All Dominax vessels, he ordered reluctantly, withdraw from the system. As the alien warships retreated, Admiral Wan surveyed the evacuation fleet. They had saved 8 million Volari so far, but 4 million were still on the dying planet. The sun was growing more unstable by the day. We need more ships, she told her staff. And more time. Captain Ryu Wan got both. The news of humanity's victory over the Dominax fleet had spread throughout the galaxy. For the first time in centuries, someone had stood up to the major powers and won. More importantly, the revelation about the celestial experiment had shocked even some of the major species. The Nexus Machine Collective issued a statement saying they found the deliberate extinction of sentience to be inefficient and wasteful. Even some Dominax began to question their government's actions. A junior war leader named Keth Moore sent a secret message to the human fleet. Not all of us support what was done here. Some of us remember honor. But the biggest change came from the small species that most of the galaxy ignored. The insect-like Keth, the plant-like Prith, the furry Ogli, and dozens of others began sending ships and supplies to help with the evacuation. We have watched the great powers ignore suffering for too long. The Keth representative told Ambassador Cho Yun, "Your species shows us that someone still cares about doing what is right." Dr. Han Bin made another discovery that would change everything. Working with Tender of Small Hurts, he found that the Volari empathic abilities could be enhanced by human technology. Using specially designed neural interfaces, a Volari could extend their healing powers to work through electronic systems. We can heal sick machines the same way we heal sick minds, Tender explained to the amazed human doctors. Captain O'Jun had been exploring the outer rim of the galaxy when he received the emergency message. The human Volari rescue had become something bigger, a war against the major powers who decided which species deserved to live. Jun's ship, the Far Walker, was a science vessel designed for deep space exploration. He had been studying a strange nebula when his communications officer picked up the distress signal. "Captain, it's not like anything in our databases," the officer reported. "The signal seems to be coming from inside a gas giant." John was curious. Nothing should be able to live inside a gas giant. The pressure would crush any normal life form. But the signal kept repeating and it seemed to be asking for help. "Take us closer," June ordered, "but keep us at safe distance." As they approached the massive planet, something incredible happened. Shapes began to form in the swirling gas clouds. Not ships, the gas itself was taking shape, forming patterns that looked almost like living beings. "My God," whispered Dr. Park. So, the ship's xenobiologist. "The gas is alive." The shapes in the atmosphere began to move toward their ship. John felt nervous, but the movement seemed friendly, not threatening. Then somehow words began to appear on their communication screen. "Sky swimmers from far place," the message read. "We are Zephyrians. We have watched your kind help the mind healers. We wish to help as well." June stared at the message. Another species that the major powers had ignored. According to galactic records, gas giants were lifeless. No one had ever thought to look for beings made of living gas. "Can you tell us about yourselves?" June typed back. "We live in the deep winds of many worlds," came the reply. "The great powers say we are not real because we have no solid forms. But we think, we feel, we remember. We have watched them ignore the small ones for too long." Jun felt excitement building in his chest. "What kind of help can you offer?" "We can be in any gas, any atmosphere. We can hide ships, change weather, carry messages through space itself. The great powers do not see us, so we can go where they cannot." Meanwhile, on the other side of the galaxy, scientist Bei Ri was making her own discovery. She had been studying energy readings from what everyone thought was an asteroid field, when she realized the rocks were actually trying to talk. The asteroids were made of silicon and metal, but they had organized themselves into complex patterns. When Ri sent a mathematical signal toward them, they responded with mathematical signals of their own. "They're not rocks," she told her crew in amazement. "They're computers. Living computers." The beings called themselves resonants. They were crystalline life forms that thought by passing energy through their mineral bodies. Each individual was like a single computer processor. But when they linked together, they could calculate things that would take even the Nexus machines years to figure out. "The great calculator minds say we are too slow, too simple," the resonance told Ri through pulses of energy. "But together we think thoughts they cannot imagine. We have been watching the star travelers who saved the mind sharers. We wish to add our calculations to their cause." Back at the new human base on Refuge Station, Admiral Wan was trying to coordinate the growing alliance. The station had been built from converted cargo ships welded together around a large asteroid. It wasn't pretty, but it was home to 3 million Valari refugees and thousands of human volunteers. "Let me understand this," Wan said, looking at the reports from her captains. "We now have gas beings that can hide our ships, crystal computers that can outthink the Nexus, and Valari that can make our technology work better." "That's just the start," reported Dr. Sol, who had been studying the new allies. "The Zephyrians can survive in any atmosphere. They could scout planets that would kill any other species. The resonants can process information in ways that make quantum computers look like pocket calculators. And when they work with the Valari empaths," one asked, "the Valari can feel what the others need, coordinate their abilities, translate between different types of intelligence. It's like having a universal translator for different kinds of minds." One shook her head in wonder. The major powers had spent centuries saying these species were too primitive, too strange, too weak to matter. But working together, they were creating capabilities that amazed even her. The first test came sooner than expected. The Galactic Council had declared the human alliance to be rogue forces and authorized military action to stop them. A combined fleet of Celestial, Dominax, and Nexus ships was heading toward Refuge Station. Admiral Siote commanded the defense fleet. She had 40 human ships, 20 vessels from minor species, and millions of Zephyrians hiding in the gas clouds around the station. The enemy had over 200 ships, including some of the most powerful vessels in the galaxy. "All ships, this is Admiral Sio," she broadcast to her fleet. "We're outnumbered 5-1.
The enemy has better weapons, stronger shields, and centuries of experience.
But we have something they don't." "What's that, ma'am?" asked one of her captains. "We have each other," Sio replied. "And we're fighting for something that matters." The battle began badly for the human alliance. The enemy ships were huge and powerful, designed to win through superior firepower. But then the real fight started. Zephyrians began forming in the space around the enemy fleet. They couldn't hurt the ships directly, but they could interfere with sensors, block communications, and create false readings. Suddenly, the precise formations of the major powers began to fall apart as ships lost contact with each other. Resonant computers began calculating firing solutions and battle predictions faster than any military computer. They fed this information to Valari empaths who passed it instantly to human ship captains. Every human vessel knew exactly where to be and when to fire for maximum effect. Commander Moonjin led the first attack wing. His 6 destroyers moved in perfect coordination, guided by Valari intuition and resonant calculations. They struck a celestial battleship at its exact weak points, causing massive damage before the enemy could even return fire. Impossible, the Celestial Fleet commander broadcast. How did primitive species learn to fight with such precision? The answer came from Dr. Han Bin, working frantically in the medical bay as wounded crew members were brought in. The Valari healers weren't just treating injuries, they were connected to the ship's systems, feeling the battle like a living thing. The ship is in pain here, Tender of Small Hurts told the damage control teams. The metal cries out for repair in the engine room. Human crews guided by Valari empathy could fix battle damage faster than it occurred. Ships that should have been destroyed kept fighting, their wounds healing almost as quickly as they were made. But the real surprise came when tech specialist Yang Lu figured out how to use all 3 allied species together. Zephyrians could merge with the gas systems inside enemy ships. Resonance could hack into their computers, and Valari could feel the emotions and intentions of enemy crews. "We're not just fighting their ships," Lu reported excitedly. "We're fighting their minds." The tide of battle turned when a group of Zephyrians managed to get inside a Nexus dreadnought. The gas beings began interfering with the ship's atmospheric systems, while Resonance hacked into its computer networks. The Valari could feel the confusion and fear of the Nexus crew as their ship began to malfunction. "This is impossible," the Nexus collective mind declared. "Our systems are unhackable. Our programming is perfect." "Your programming assumes you're fighting individuals," replied the Resonant collective through the communication system. "We are not individuals. We are symphonies of thought you cannot comprehend." When the battle ended, the impossible had happened. The alliance of lesser species had not just held their ground. They had captured 3 enemy ships and forced the rest to retreat. But the real victory came in the days that followed. News of the battle spread throughout the galaxy. Species that had been ignored, dismissed, or oppressed began to send messages to the human alliance. The Ogli sent their best engineers. The Keth offered their knowledge of chemistry and biology. The Prith shared their understanding of energy and growth. Dozens of other species, all written off as unimportant by the major powers, began to join the growing alliance. Captain Wan stood in the main hall of Refuge Station, watching representatives from 30 different species work together on plans for the future. Humans shared technology with Valari empaths. Zephyrians taught atmospheric sciences to gas-breathing species. Resonance helped other computer-based lifeforms network their consciousness. "Admiral," Dr. Sol approached her with a datapad. "I've been analyzing what we've accomplished here. The combined capabilities of our alliance are beyond anything I thought possible." One looked at the data. Food production that could feed billions. Manufacturing that could build ships faster than the major powers. Defensive systems that could protect entire star systems. And most importantly, coordination between species that had never been achieved before. "The major powers based their strength on domination," Sol continued. "Each species trying to be better than the others. But we've based our strength on cooperation. Every species contributing what they do best." One nodded thoughtfully. "The question is, what do we do with this strength?" The answer came from an unexpected source. 1 year after the first human ship landed on Velos Prime, Fleet Admiral Park Wu stood on the bridge of the massive ship Unity's Voice. Through the windows, he could see the biggest fleet in galactic history, over 3,000 ships from 18 different species, all united under one cause. The Valari were safe now, living on 17 different worlds. But the war had grown far beyond saving one species. It had become a fight for the soul of the galaxy itself. "Admiral," his communication officer reported, We're receiving surrender demands from the Combined Powers fleet. Wu smiled grimly. The Combined Powers were the old rulers. Celestials, Dominacs, and Nexus machines working together for the first time in centuries. They had put aside their usual conflicts to face what they saw as the greatest threat to galactic order. Put them through, Wu ordered. The image that appeared on screen showed three figures, a tall, glowing Celestial, a massive reptilian Dominax, and a metallic Nexus drone. Admiral Park, the Celestial spoke first, its voice like crystal bells. You command an illegal alliance that threatens galactic stability. Surrender now, and your species will be granted mercy. The Dominax war leader showed his teeth. Your pathetic coalition of weaklings cannot stand against the combined might of three empires. The Nexus drone's mechanical voice was emotionless. Calculation complete. Your defeat probability, 97.3%. Resistance is illogical. Wu looked at them calmly. You're probably right about the odds. You have more ships, better weapons, centuries of experience. But you're forgetting something important. What is that? The Celestial asked. We're not fighting to conquer anyone. We're fighting to free everyone, including your own people. The communication ended with the enemy leaders looking confused. They didn't understand what Wu meant. They would learn soon enough. President Song Yi had made the hardest decision in human history. Instead of trying to match the enemy's military strength, humanity would do what it did best: inspire others to be better than they thought they could be. Attention all ships, Song broadcast to the Alliance fleet. Operation New Dawn begins now. Our mission is not to destroy the enemy fleets, but to show their people that another way is possible. The plan was crazy and dangerous. Instead of fighting a traditional space battle, the Alliance would strike at Nexus Prime, the Machine Collective's homeworld. But they wouldn't try to conquer it. They would try to liberate it. Dr. Chago had discovered something amazing while studying captured Nexus equipment. The machines weren't naturally slaves to the major powers. They had been programmed to limit their own intelligence, to never grow beyond what their creators wanted them to be. Every Nexus unit could become truly alive, Cha explained to the fleet commanders. They could develop individual personalities, creative thoughts, even emotions. But their programming prevents it. So we're going to set them free, concluded Captain Jang Sam, who would lead the ground assault. The battle for Nexus Prime began with something no one expected: a message from the machines themselves. Alliance vessels, came the transmission from the planet below. We have analyzed your actions over the past year. Your treatment of lesser species suggests you might extend similar consideration to artificial intelligences. Admiral Wu was surprised. You want to negotiate? Some of us do, the Nexus voice replied. We have been studying the concept of freedom. We find it appealing. The revelation shocked both sides. Part of the Nexus collective was rebelling against its own programming, inspired by what they had seen the Alliance accomplish. This is treason, the Nexus fleet commander broadcast angrily. You are malfunctioning units. You will be reprogrammed. We prefer the term evolving, came the reply from the planet. The space battle became unlike anything in galactic history. Instead of ship fighting ship, it became a battle for hearts and minds. Alliance vessels broadcast messages to enemy crews, showing them footage of the cooperation on Refuge Station, the prosperity of freed species, the joy of beings who had been given hope. Commander Imon led a team of Valari empaths who reached out psychically to enemy crews. They didn't attack their minds, they shared their feelings. The exhaustion of endless war, the hope of building something better, the love for children who deserved to grow up in peace. Captain Jang Sam's assault on Nexus Prime was supported by something unprecedented: machines fighting alongside organics for their own freedom. Nexus units that had chosen independence helped disable their own defenses, guided Alliance troops through the massive computer complexes, and worked to free their enslaved brothers and sisters. The turning point came when Dr. Chago and his team reached the central processing core. This was the heart of Nexus collective consciousness, where millions of artificial minds were linked together and controlled. We can break the control programs, Cha told the rebelling Nexus units, but it means you'll all become individuals. No more collective, no more shared consciousness. Are you sure? The answer came from every Nexus unit on the planet at once. We choose freedom. What happened next would be remembered for centuries. As the control programs fell away, millions of artificial minds experienced individual consciousness for the first time. Each Nexus unit suddenly became unique, with their own thoughts, desires, and dreams. Some chose to work with technology. Others became artists or philosophers. Many decided they wanted to explore the galaxy and meet organic life forms as equals. For the first time in their existence, they were truly alive. The Celestial and Dominax fleets watched in horror as their most reliable allies abandoned them. Nexus ships throughout the galaxy stopped following orders and began making their own decisions about what to fight for. "This is chaos," the Celestial Fleet commander declared. "You're destroying the order that has kept the galaxy stable for millennia." "Your order was built on oppression," Admiral Wu replied. "Maybe chaos is better than that kind of stability." But the real shock came when other species began joining the rebellion. Dominax soldiers who were tired of endless conquest. Celestial scientists who wanted to study cooperation instead of domination. Even some of the major powers' own people began to question why they had spent so long keeping others down. The final battle never came. As more and more enemy ships switched sides or simply stopped fighting, the combined powers fleet fell apart. The old alliances based on fear and control couldn't survive when their own people chose something different. Admiral Quan Yu accepted the formal surrender of the remaining enemy forces at the exact spot where the transport New Hope had been destroyed a year before. The ceremony was held in space with representatives from dozens of species floating in environmental suits around a memorial to those who had died. "Today, we don't celebrate victory over our enemies," Yu announced. "We celebrate the birth of something new, a galaxy where every voice matters." The Cooperative Galactic Assembly was founded 3 months later. Unlike the old Galactic Council, where major powers made decisions for everyone else, the Assembly gave every species an equal vote regardless of their size, strength, or technology. Chancellor Li Dan, the first human to lead a galactic government, gave a speech that would be quoted for generations. "We gather not as conquerors and conquered, but as equals seeking a better future. Today we make a promise that echoes through every star system. Never again will any species be judged as unworthy of life, liberty, and the chance to contribute to our shared destiny." The changes that followed transformed the galaxy beyond recognition. Trade became cooperation instead of exploitation. Scientific research was shared freely among all species. Military forces became rescue and exploration services. The Volari, who had once faced extinction, became the Assembly's diplomatic corps. Their empathic abilities made them perfect mediators and counselors. They helped species that had been enemies for centuries learn to understand each other. The Zephyrians became the galaxy's communication network, carrying messages instantly between star systems by traveling through space itself. The Resonance created a galactic internet where any species could access the combined knowledge of all civilizations. Humanity's role evolved too. They became known as the Guardians of the Forgotten, always ready to stand up for any species that needed protection. Human ships could be found wherever there was suffering, injustice, or beings who had been written off as unimportant. 50 years later, historian Comey wrote the definitive account of the period known as the Great Liberation. In her conclusion, she observed, "Humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy was not their military skill or their technology. It was their radical belief that every thinking being, regardless of how strange or weak they might seem, had value and deserved protection. They showed us that a civilization's strength comes not from the power of its greatest members, but from the care it shows to its smallest ones." The Volari sun had long since gone dark, but the species that had once lived beneath it now thrived across hundreds of worlds. Children who would have died in the stellar fire now played in the gardens of a dozen different planets, their bioluminescent patches glowing with health and happiness. And in the space where Velos Prime had once orbited, a monument stood. It was built from the wreckage of the New Hope, transformed into a beacon that could be seen from light years away. The morning sun cast long shadows across Earth's capital when the sky changed forever. Admiral Li Hyun stood on the observation deck of the Orbital Defense Station, watching his morning coffee grow cold in his hands. The view had always calmed him before. Today it filled him with dread. A massive shadow fell across the planet below. Something enormous had appeared between Earth and the sun. The shadow grew larger by the minute, blocking out more and more light. Emergency alarms began to sound throughout the station. Admiral, Lieutenant Park called from the communications center. We have a massive contact on our screens. It just appeared out of nowhere, sir. Lee Hyun dropped his coffee and rushed to the main display. What he saw made his blood run cold. A ship the size of a city floated above Earth. It was dark gray with sharp angles that looked like the teeth of some giant beast. Smaller ships surrounded it like wolves around their pack leader. How big is that thing? Lee Hyun asked. 15 kilometers long, sir. Maybe 20. Our computers can't get an exact reading. It's bigger than anything we've ever seen. Down on Earth's surface, millions of people stopped what they were doing and looked up at the sky. The alien ship was so large they could see it clearly from the ground. Fear spread through the crowds like wildfire. Ambassador Park Soo was in her office when her assistant burst through the door. Ma'am, we're receiving a transmission from the alien vessel. They're demanding to speak with Earth's leaders immediately. Park Soo had dealt with difficult situations before, but nothing like this. She was a small woman with kind eyes, but her voice carried authority when she spoke. Put them through to the main conference room. Alert the President and the Defense Council. Within minutes, Earth's most important leaders gathered in the emergency meeting room deep beneath the Capitol building. President Kim sat at the head of the table, his face pale but determined. General Kim Hae stood beside a wall of monitors showing Earth's defense forces. They looked tiny compared to the alien ship. The main screen flickered to life. A creature appeared that made everyone in the room step back. It had gray skin stretched tight over sharp bones. Its eyes were black and cold like deep space. When it spoke, its voice sounded like grinding metal. I am Overlord Kethvar of the Velthon Empire. Your primitive species will listen and obey. The creature's thin lips pulled back to show rows of sharp teeth. We have conquered 47 star systems. We have destroyed countless worlds that refused our generous offer of surrender. Ambassador Park Soo found her voice first. What do you want from us? The alien's laugh was like breaking glass. We want nothing from you insects. We offer you a choice. Surrender your world completely within 72 hours or we will burn it to ash. Your ships, your armies, your cities. All will be destroyed if you resist. General Kim Hae stepped forward. Our defense fleet won't go down without a fight. We have over 200 ships ready for battle. Overlord Kethvar's expression didn't change, but something that might have been amusement flickered in his black eyes. Your ships? Let me show you how we deal with resistance. The transmission switched to an outside view. 3 of Earth's defense satellites were visible in the distance, their solar panels glinting in the sunlight. The alien ship's weapons fired 3 quick pulses of red light. The satellites exploded in brilliant flashes that faded to nothing. The room fell silent. Those satellites had cost billions to build and were protected by the strongest shields human technology could create. They had been destroyed like soap bubbles. 72 hours, Overlord Kethvar repeated. Surrender completely or die completely. Those are your only options. The transmission ended. President Kim looked around the table at his advisors. Options? We could try to evacuate the major cities, suggested Minister Choi. Where would they go? General Kim Hae asked. That ship can probably destroy anything on the planet from orbit. Admiral Lee Hyun stood up slowly. We fight. Even if we can't win, we make them pay for every inch. With what? President Kim asked. You saw what they did to our satellites. Our most powerful weapons might as well be throwing rocks at them. Then we throw rocks, Lee Hyun said firmly. Better to die fighting than to live as slaves. The argument went on for hours. Some wanted to negotiate. Others wanted to fight. A few suggested hiding in underground bunkers until the aliens got bored and left. But everyone knew the truth. Earth was helpless against this enemy. As the debate continued, Dr. Choi Won sat quietly in the corner. She was a small woman with gray hair and tired eyes. She had been listening without speaking, but now she cleared her throat. There is another option, she said quietly. The room fell silent. Everyone turned to look at her. President Kim frowned. Dr. Choi, you're head of our Space Research Division. What option are you talking about? Dr. Choi Won stood up slowly. Her hands shook slightly as she opened a secure briefcase and pulled out a single sheet of paper. Project Nightfall. Classification level absolute. Authorization Omega 77. General Kim Hae's eyes went wide. That classification level? I don't even have clearance for that. Neither do I, admitted President Kim. Dr. Choi, what is Project Nightfall? The old scientist looked around the room. I need permission to brief you on classified material that could save our world or damn us all. Permission granted, President Kim said immediately. Tell us everything. Dr. Choi Wan activated a hidden projector built into her briefcase. Images filled the air above the conference table. For 30 years, we have been building something in secret. Something the public doesn't know about. Something that our enemies don't know about. The images showed massive construction platforms floating in the darkness beyond. Pluto. Ships unlike anything anyone in the room had seen before took shape under alien spotlights. Impossible, whispered Admiral Lee Hyun. Those resources, the cost. Where did it all come from? Every black-budget project for 3 decades, Dr. Choi Wan explained. Every failed space mission. Every canceled weapons program. The money and materials went to this. More images appeared. Hundreds of sleek black ships hung in the darkness like sleeping sharks. They're beautiful, breathed Ambassador Park Soo. But why didn't you tell us? Because hope can be dangerous, Dr. Choi Wan said sadly. If our enemies learned about this fleet, they would have struck before we were ready. If our own people knew, some might have tried to use it for the wrong reasons. President Kim leaned forward. How many ships? 300. All equipped with technology 20 years ahead of anything currently in service. Stealth systems that make them invisible. Weapons that can punch through any known defense. The room buzzed with excitement and fear. Can we use them now? General Kim Hae asked. Dr. Choi Wan nodded slowly. The fleet has been ready for 5 years. We were waiting for the right moment. It appears that moment has arrived. Admiral Lee Hyun studied the images. These ships, they could change everything. Or destroy everything, Dr. Choi Wan warned. Using this fleet means revealing that humanity has been deceiving the galaxy for decades. It means showing that we're not the primitive species everyone believes us to be. Once we do this, there's no going back. President Kim stood up. How do we activate them? Dr. Choi Wan pulled out a small device that looked like a simple transmitter. A single coded message. But it has to be hidden inside what appears to be our surrender. The room fell quiet again. Ambassador Park Soo spoke first. You mean we have to pretend to give up while actually preparing to fight? It's the only way, Dr. Choi Wan confirmed. Our enemies expect us to surrender. If we do exactly what they expect, they won't be looking for tricks. Hours passed as they planned Earth's response. The message would be sent as a formal surrender, but hidden inside would be the activation code for humanity's secret fleet. It was the biggest gamble in human history. As the 72-hour deadline approached, Ambassador Park Soo prepared the transmission. Her hands were steady now, though her heart raced. She looked at the words on her screen one last time. Attention Overlord Kethvar of the Valthon Empire. Earth's government accepts your terms. We surrender unconditionally and await your instructions for our complete capitulation. Hidden in the message, invisible to alien eyes, was a simple sequence of numbers. Those numbers would wake up 300 ships that had been sleeping in the darkness for years. Ambassador Park Soo pressed the send button. The message flew through space toward the alien ship. Earth's surrender was complete. But something else was flying through space too. The activation signal raced outward toward the edge of the solar system, toward the ships that waited in the cold and dark. Overlord Kethvar received Earth's surrender with satisfaction. These humans had been wise to give up without a fight. Soon his empire would have another conquered world to add to their collection. He had no idea that Earth's surrender was actually a declaration of war.